signed by the Animal Liberation Front and reported an action that they had taken against HLS's Beagle supplier, Harlan Interfauna. Now, for those who don't know, this place was called Harlan Interfauna during the period of this book. So, to avoid the razor wire and the 10-foot alarm fence here, the ALF constructed a scaffold frame to bridge the fortifications. The plan worked perfectly, and they liberated 71 beagles. One activist dubbed it a textbook ALF raid, saying, "A few of us got onto the roof, and straight away we could hear the pups yapping. It gave us a big kick. As soon as we heard them, there was no way we could leave empty-handed. Time for the trusty old crowbar. We used it to make a little hole, and then we ripped big bits of the roof off with our bare hands. I looked through the hole and saw two of the most beautiful big eyes looking back up at me, probably wondering why some nutter in a balaclava and a grin was shining a torch at her. As I jumped down into her pen, she went crazy, jumping up at me and squealing with excitement. But there was no time for fussing her. That would come later. She went straight into the sack that my partner was holding and was lifted through the roof into the safe hands of another friend. She went along the chain of people with roughly 15... She went along the chain of people over the fence and into the field. There were 4 pens with roughly 15 pups in each, aged 4 to 6 months, and 1 pen with older dogs in it, about 18 months old. Whereas the puppies had all been jumping up, yapping, and pissing themselves through excitement, these older dogs were cowering in the corners, pissing themselves through fear. It was gutting, absolutely heartbreaking to see an animal so scared. They were terrified of human beings. Within an hour, we had bagged up and passed out down the chain 71 beagles, and what was once a packed, noisy puppy unit was now eerily silent, and best of all, empty. Now was the hardest part of all, a 10-minute run, ferrying the dogs to the vehicles. We hoisted a sack over each shoulder and legged it. After 2 minutes, everyone was knackered but running on adrenaline, all the time running back and forth across the fields. I kept expecting to hear an alarm going off, or the guard to come out, or the police to turn up, but luck was on our side and nothing happened. So, as ALF activists waited beside the road with the liberated beagles, a fleet of cars pulled up, and one by one they loaded the dogs into the vehicles. The cars sped off in different directions to freedom. So this bit of history was from 1999 when this place was raided by the Animal Liberation Front. There was 71 dogs they emptied out of there, and I truly hope, I'm sure you all do, that at some point we're going to see these units close once again. Before I give the next little reading, I've been asked to promote the World Day for Lab Animals event that's in Liverpool on the 27th of April. So yes, I'm sure it's on the social webs, but if you see one of these leaflets, grab it and go to Liverpool on the 27th of April for World Day for Animals in Laboratories. The next reading is from a few years after the last one, from 2002, I believe, and it's about a time that I came on a protest here, and well, you'll see what happens in a minute. So something the Shack used to do a lot of was days of mobile protest, where we'd go from one target to another throughout the day and cause as much mayhem and disruption as we could, and this is about one of those days. So during a mobile protest in the UK, 100 protesters stormed the warehouse of Parker's Fine Foods, who supplied animal flesh for HLS's canteen. As more and more protesters arrived, the police called in a helicopter, finally gaining control. And as soon as the last intruder was evicted, the entire protest headed for HLS's Beagle breeder, which was this place. I personally joined this protest here, arriving a few minutes before everyone else. Walking across the fields at the back, my friends and I approached the fence. The barking of the beagles grew louder, a distressing sound as they desperately cried for help which would never come. I eyed up the razor wire, but several police officers appeared and followed us. As I separated from my friends with a lone constable on my tail, I heard over his radio that 100 protesters had just arrived at the front, and he rushed off to help. Immediately, I scrambled over 2 sets of 8-foot-high razor wire fences, leaping into the compound here and running towards the beagles. After climbing a roof, I peered into a narrow passageway where I witnessed the terrified animals cowering in fear. I turned and saw the rest of the protesters surrounding the compound, defending themselves against police violence as they tried to reach me. I jumped into the excrement-lined passageway. The shovel of sawdust that had been sprinkled down failed to soak up the urine, which flowed freely through the bars. The smell was overpowering. The animals' reaction to me made it clear how the staff here treated them. Most of them ran and hid, whining and shaking at the back of their cages, beneath small wooden benches. A few ran up to me, only to bolt back, petrified. An older beagle had desperately tried to chew through the bars, resulting in bloody stumps in her gums where her teeth should have been. One dog ran up to me and sniffed my hand. She sensed it was safe and wagged her tail as I made a fuss of her. Knowing that soon she would be cut open on a vivisector's table after horrific experimentation is something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. I tried desperately to open the cages, but they were locked, and I couldn't get through the bars. Tears poured from my eyes as I reluctantly conceded there was nothing I could do. I approached every cage sobbing, apologizing to each dog for being unable to bring them the liberation they so desperately needed and deserved. I made sure that the police saw the dogs as they escorted me from the premises, but they showed no emotion. As they dragged me out of the front gate just here, a concerned friend tried to reach me, but the police punched him in the stomach and arrested him too. They charged me with aggravated trespass. But after what I had witnessed behind these fences, 4 hours in police cells felt like a 5-star hotel. I promise not all of the book is that depressing, but really I wanted to read that just to remind us all that what I saw inside this place 20 years ago is the same as what you would see inside this place today, what we have seen inside this place today, and it's so important that we do everything we can to stop it. And maybe it's a little reminder that actually those fences aren't that big and the razor wire is not that scary.